wanted to speak to a thinking person and also to revive the faith of a person who might have been disturbed by the great debates that were raging around them. So part of what he did was he wrote this Maimer on Pnimius HaTorah. He said, no, Torah does not exist on a rational. You cannot just look at it as a text on its own. You have to look at it from the perspective of Chazal and Midrashim and Kabbalistic Svarim, etc. Another thing that he did, which is truly, truly amazing, is his Perush on Chumash. The Perush on Chumash, what does he do? He inserts inyanim of Kabbalah in there that are not even translated today by even Art Scroll, but he does something else. Who does he argue with often? The two greatest commentators up until his time were who? Rashi and the Ibn Ezra. Who does he constantly debate with? Rashi and Ibn Ezra.
Really? He's discussed in the Stone's Chumash in the Bible, and they have the English summaries of the Parsha. Now I've been noticing the Ramban, now that we're learning about him.
Of course.
He's right, he conflicts with Rashi and Ibn Ezra.
Why? What is his objective? What is he trying to accomplish? He was talking to people who were not necessarily people who would take a medrash on face value. But you know what? Rashi and Ibn Ezra represent the opposite ends of a spectrum. Rashi is pure Chazal, pure, pristine. We teach Rashi to Kindalach and the Cheder. We eat up Rashi, and it's the yesod of our emunah, right? Rashi says it, that's it. That's what it meant. That's pshat. And unquestioned filiance, what do you call it? Faithfulness to every single medrash that Chazal would say as absolute truth. The Ibn Ezra, on the other hand, was a linguist. He was a master of the Hebrew language, of dikduk. Therefore, when he read the Torah, he said, I have to understand the Torah by basing my understanding of the pshat in the words based on the principles of dikduk. Right? I'm not looking for remez. Remember, Torah exists on many levels. What are the 4 levels of Torah? Pardes, pshat, remez, drash, and sod. Pshat is pshat. Now Rashi wrote Lipshuto Shamikra, but the Ramban wrote to dikduk HaMikra. If he didn't like the way Rashi explained something, right, because it didn't match his understanding of Hebrew grammar, he told you so.
Like Ramban or Ibn Ezra? The
Ibn Ezra was now, ironically, that's why you'll see in Rashi so many things about grammar. You remember, there's so many Rashis about grammar, so many.
To go against.
Right, because he was saying, no, you can't, because Rashi was also doing that. He was taking the Mamari Chazal and saying, but this is also pshat and how it fits in with the grammatic. Mm-hmm. You understand so this is an agenda going on.
So the Ramban's agenda was to be convincing to the antagonists,
and also to strengthen the pure of faith.
Isn't that what, was Rashi a Rishon or a?
Rishon.
And Ramban?
Rishon. The period of Rishonim the period of Rishonim does not end until 1942 at the earliest. There are those who argue that you can call that there's really Rishonim end with the Gerush Svarad, right? 1492. That's it. Those rabbis from 1492 and before, the Ramban, Rashi, right? Rambam, Rashba, Ritva, the other Rishonim. In that period, and the students of the Ramban, the Balei Tosfos, they were the last one. They were the last word. They were the last word on Talmud. That's it. There's it. You're not going to come and tell me a Perush on Talmud, right, that contradicts the words of the Rishonim. That attitude started with the Ramban, who from his perspective was looking backwards at the Rambam and at Rashi and the Gaon'S before him, the 100 and 200 years before him, right? And he said, we cannot break from them. We cannot deviate from the teachings that we have received till now.
So he didn't contradict them.
He refused, he would not. In fact, when he was a young boy, he wrote a perush, he was still a teenager, called Milchemes Hashem, the War of God. Here again, fighting the wars of God. It was to protect the Rif. The Rif was the great Rabbi Yitzhak Al-Fassi, right? Fez is Morocco. He was, as the Torah world drifted westward from the Middle East, from Iraq, which was Bavel, right? Bavel is Iraq. And that's where Talmud Bavli was written. The communities of Iraq, up and down the Euphrates River. That's it. That's where Talmud Bavli was written. That was the great, and to a lesser extent in Eretz Yisrael, because in Eretz Yisrael was controlled by the Christians in that early period until the Muslims came along, and even then for a while. So therefore, the productive area was in Bavel, and then they moved out once you have the Muslim conquest in 622, right? They conquered the whole North Africa, right? Before that, if you understand a little history, the Roman Empire that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash and that destroyed Bar Kokhba, controlled the world all the way up to Spain, and interior into Europe, and up to Germany. They fought as far as Eastern Europe, and they fought the entire Western Europe all the way up to Spain. That was the world. And that world drew Jews into it, and that's how Jews started to head towards Germany and France in the year. What am I talking about? The year 100 before the Common Era, the year 70 when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, in the year 100 and 200 and 300 and 400. But that was it. Once the Roman Empire was broken up, right? And not soon afterwards, within 200 years, within 100, 200 years, comes the Muslims. An amazing thing. And within less than a couple of decades, they took over the whole part, that whole North African till Spain part of what used to be the Roman Empire. And guess what? The Jews move with them. Because they were a lot better to deal with than the Romans, and who were not the easiest characters. But the Muslims were new, and they needed experienced hands. They needed people who knew how to run things. They needed Yosefs. They needed a lot of Yosefs. So the Torah world started to drift that direction towards North Africa. The Rif, who's 150 years, etc., before the Ramban, was the greatest Torah scholar of North Africa. He carried the tradition from Bavel. That was the tradition. You got to go from Mishnah, from Eretz Yisrael, to Bavel, and then take it out to North Africa, right? And that's the tradition. Came the Ramban in his youth, and he says, and then the rabbis of Spain, particularly Rav Zerachi Halevi, started criticizing the Rif and saying, no, that's not pshat in the Talmud. What do you mean that's not pshat in the Talmud? Who knows Talmud better than the Rif? Mm-hmm. He's coming from the Gaon'S. Who are you? Who are you to tell?
Why are they doing that?
Because they said, I can learn Talmud also. I have my own ideas. I have my own understanding. Right? So they wrote things and said, no, we don't agree with the Rif. We don't agree with the Rif. Remember, because where were there rabbis that were developing France and Germany and England that had nothing to do with the Jews that were under Muslim rule. The Jews under Christian rule learned the Talmud their way, okay, and developed their own devotions to Hashem, their tefillos and their minhagim and everything. And then you had the Spanish, the North African Jews that came from the Middle East. They had their tradition, and where it met the crunch point between them was Spain. In Spain was where those two traditions hit head on, because Spain was divided among the Christians and the Muslims, and there was a lot of interaction. And that's how the Maimonides controversy started, because the books of the Rambam, who was writing in Egypt, got to the rabbis of France and Germany, and it set off many explosions. Mm-hmm. And here the poor Ramban is in the middle of all this, trying to hold Klal Yisrael together as they enter a period that was going to be a period of devastation and eventually the destruction of Spanish Jewry and the end of that complete era, as Jews would move eastward towards Eretz Yisrael and towards Eastern Europe.
Could that have been because of the lack of unity as a result?
And he was standing in that breach. So everything he did was about reconciling Am Yisrael and holding it together. Just like Yosef HaTzadik, who was the one who took the fighting Shvatim, right? Shimon and Levi against this, and Reuven here, and they're all fighting against Yosef, and Yosef says, we're all one people here. We're all one people here. This is what Yaakov Avinu wants. We're one Am, one Shevet, and we're going to be here all together. So it's that type of person is what Rabbi. So he wrote a sefer in his teens against Rabbi called Milchemet Hashem, the Wars of God, defending the Rif from the attacks on the Talmudic understandings by Reb Zerachia Halevi of Spain, who was coming from a different perspective. And the great Balei Tosfos, who were in France and Germany, also didn't see eye to eye, which is why the Ramban wrote a Perush on the Talmud, an amazing Perush on the Talmud. What does he do in the Talmud, in his Perush on Talmud? He charts a course that takes the teachings of the Tosafists, of which he really, was, I would say, an affiliate of, and with the teachings of the previous generations as well. And he forges a path in the Talmud of understanding that neither is married to one way or the other, but shows the truth can exist in both camps. He was a conciliator, and he did a wonderful job of that. So he wrote Milchemes Hashem, and he was also approached on the other side by a fellow named Rabbi Yaacov Zakuto, who was a fierce critic of the Rambam. And he said, I'm getting killed over here. People who love the Rambam are attacking me. And he approached the Ramban and says, please write me a letter defending me. And that was the Ramban's work. And of course, where it culminated was in defending the Jewish people against the friars, which is what we're going to learn next week. We're going to learn next week about the debate with when the Jews themselves were fighting, and how eventually that fight ended up in the palace of the king of Aragon, where they debated the teachings of the Torah publicly. Okay? Any questions? Good. So this is Mir Hashem will continue. That'll be the final class for the Ramban on the concept of Milchemes Hashem, fighting and defending the faith of Judaism against detractors.